continue where the showcase left off. This game has been such a long time coming. We still don't have a date yet, which is what I thought in the pre-show, that we wouldn't quite get a new date yet. But this game looks enormous. Destin, I want to start with you. We were all sort of chattering throughout that, and there's a little bit of one common theme.
Yeah, reminded me a lot of No Man's Sky.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed No Man's Sky, being able to travel to all the different planets. And they said 100 systems. So let's say each of those systems has 3 locations. That's 300 destinations that you can go to in Starfield. I really enjoyed the space combat, but it did seem like there were some optimization issues with the game, which explains the delay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stella, the scope there that Todd Howard kind of wanted to drop the mic at the end of like, oh, you're wondering how big this game is? Let me show you how big this game is.
Yeah, I saw the system that you start out and I was like, oh, that's not too bad. And then they kept expanding and expanding. I was like, please stop, like that's enough. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got Starfield. I'm glad we got it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I feel a little bit disappointed. I think that is actually, I've had time to process my feelings, and I think I do feel a little bit disappointed. It looks gorgeous, like the environments look great, but I think I'm not a huge fan of how the enemy health bars look. Am I allowed to get picky about
I mean, I guess it's what they showed. We've got plenty of time. Okay. We're going to talk at Starfield for a while before we get to the rest of everything.
Okay, cool,
so dig in.
I don't like the way that they do the enemy health bars. I don't know if it's like the overlay or the colors they picked, but I feel like it kind of takes me out of the whole combat experience.
Would you want to turn that off on the HUD if you can?
Maybe, or have it be kind of like a line at the top instead of it being like a solid bar right above the enemy.
Right.
For some reason, that kind of just takes me out of it. I think everything looks really cool with the new environments, the new cities. I love that look. I know we were talking about the hub world kind of reminding us of Mass Effect, which is what we love. I genuinely hope this story is good and compelling, which I loved Fallout 4's story, got completely engrossed in it, so I'm hopeful. But after seeing gameplay, I'm just like, the story better be good for me.
And on that note, like, they didn't really focus on storytelling at all, and that's like the main hook for games like Fallout, for games like Elder Scrolls.
They had a little bit there. I think it was also hard for us to hear in the studio, just so everybody knows. We were watching like on a screen that's very far away, and we're like blasting the sound, and we can try to hear it. But they did talk a little bit about it as far as like those artifacts that they're trying to find and the exploration, and then you sort of had like an allusion to the different factions of like, oh, we don't actually want to go out and fight and just kill a bunch of people, or like, oh, these people over here are like straight up just pirates, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think there was like a touch of it, but it wasn't necessarily the focus, to your point.
What I wanted was a hook. Like, why am I as a character interested in investing in any of these factions? Because we've known about the factions, we've known about New Atlantis and these locations, and a brief bit of lore about each, but what's that narrative hook that's going to get you to go out and go explore?
See, I would counter. I'm much more bullish on this. I'm going to talk more about this game later, but this made me very, very happy.
I think we're like the table is split.
We're
me and you. I am so excited for what they showed.
And let me tell you, Destin. So what I would say is not that I don't want a great narrative, and I hope that's in there, but. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Skyrim too, but Oblivion is just near and dear to my heart. And the first time I played through it, I sort of went through the story slowly and kind of just picked and chose as I went on. But then when I did a replay, I blew through the story first because I thought the story was the least awesome part of that game, and the open world stuff in Cyrodiil and Oblivion was the best part of the game, and it still was a 9 or 10 out of 10 video game for me, even without the strongest narrative necessarily. So yeah, I agree, we didn't get necessarily a sense of what the story actually is here, but based on what's been shown off, I mean, the sense of scale and exploration, I mean, to me this, Miranda, I want to hear more from you on this. To me, this was like not only an amalgamation of every Todd Howard game that's ever been made, both on the Fallout and on the Elder Scrolls side, but certainly some newer influences like No Man's Sky as well. And to me, it all came together into really a wondrous thing, which is wonder is what I want out of a Todd Howard Bethesda game.
I think too, like, yes, the story, the factions, the people, they're really important, but one of the things I've always really loved about Fallout is that sense of exploration, that ownership in that exploration. Like, this is my story, these are my weapons, this is my dog, we're going out, we're gonna go build a town, and it's gonna be cute. Or, plates are gonna fall through the table, who knows, but hopefully they don't. And when we were watching, I was like, man, I hope they bring certain elements to this, because they could start fresh. They could just change a bunch of mechanics. They don't necessarily have to bring things forward. But I was like, I hope we still have like that base kind of community setup. I really like that. I know it wasn't like the biggest thing for everybody in Fallout 4, but for me, I just really liked having that sort of extra layer of like, this is a place I want to protect, and it's important to me for a very specific reason. And I got to put that together. I got to have like a space in the wasteland for me and my people. Yeah. And with this, when they're like, all right, you get to set up, your bases, your stations, and I was like, oh, okay, good, that's great. And they're like, also your spaceships, and I was like,
yeah. Well, you were calling it out, but in the middle of the presentation, you were like, I hope that I can build my own house, and then here comes the settlement builder.
Yeah, I think especially because it's not just, making something that makes sense as far as like a mining facility that's going to continue getting your resources for research. Like there's all these aspects, like even though it's like, I want to play house, but like this has a very firm use, and it's not just about having a cool town. It's about having a town that does something for you. It's like you're putting people, like giving them work to do to help like further your research and further your exploration. I think that's so cool. And then of course the spaceship part, I was like, oh, maybe you can just like customize your cabin. No. You build your spaceship. Yeah. You do everything, which was just another layer that I was really surprised to see.
I will say I'm hoping that the spaceship combat stuff isn't as shallow as like the Mako and Mass Effect 1, where it's like you just kind of do it a few times and then you're like, all right, I'm bored with this. I never want to do it again. But speaking of Mass Effect Destin, there were definitely some Mass Effect-y echoes. You're IGN's resident Mass Effect super fan.
Yeah, I mean, like with the spaceship exploration, I suppose, or what are you alluding to?
Well, the city that they touched down in very much gave me a Mass Effect vibe.
Yeah, so I believe that's the area of the world where they describe it as more political, and you're trying to like play nice with everybody in the universe. And then New Atlantis, I believe, is the name of the location. There's another location where they're actually farming psychotropic fish or something like that and selling drugs. So I want to like get into the seedier area of this game. I know there's going to be narrative hooks in the game, right? Like they've alluded to it enough, so I'm excited about that aspect. But also the spaceship stuff you talked about, that actually has me quite intrigued, because I want to make the exact spaceship how I want to make it, and I think it's going to help you with your combat, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm hoping we get like a little lamplight moment, in Fallout. It's just, I think just finding something weird, like something that's like, what is happening here, and getting to dig into that through space. Like, even if it's not on a planet, I think that the exploration thing is, you guys, I lead the guides team here at IGN, and we're going to be very busy. But I think just seeing like, okay, well, what is there? Like, what is there to miss? Like, how much in depth are these like different systems going to have? Like, what are the stories that we could find? There isn't more about resources. But I think they had like Todd Howard gave a very good explanation of like, oh, well, this is the Goldilocks planet. Like, this is where everybody is, but this one's just about resources. So I think having that sort of as an idea of like, okay, well, peppered here and there are things for you to find. But the question, of course, is how much is that throughout everything, and how weird is it going to get? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's really funny, because in Fallout 4, you could explore that fallen spaceship, and now you're literally in space, so what do you do? It's not like aliens are a weird thing, so
yeah,
hopefully there's something cool to discover. I love all the customization stuff. I love that. I know that there is going to be a story that is probably going to be good, but I just want to know more information on it, because I'm like, why am I motivated to protect this, this civilization that I'm creating? Why am I motivated to build a spaceship to go out even further? I am so afraid that they are doing a little bit too much, and not everything will be done well, because there's just so much to this game, and I'm like, I want this to do well. I want this to be fun. I want it to be good. And every time they showed something new, I'm like, that is a lot. That's going to be a lot to handle. Please take your time on this game.
I understand that concern, because I think as gamers we have that about a lot of big anticipated games. But I guess what I would say to hopefully put your mind at ease and hopefully proves true is, remember, this is Todd Howard and the Bethesda Game Studios team have been working on this for going on now 7 years, because Fallout 4 was 2015, and yes, they sort of chipped in on Fallout 76, but that wasn't their game. That was out of Texas. So this has been a long, like, they've had ample time to make all of those things good, as you're saying. And Destin, I know you were mentioning the faction stuff before. Like, that could potentially be some of the best parts of this game. Like, if you go back again to Oblivion, my favorite Todd Howard game, all of the faction quests were the best stuff, like the Fighters Guild, Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, all that. Those were arguably some of the best quests in that game. So, we could be going into those seedier alleys, space alleys in this game.
Well, I mean, just to be really straightforward here, I think because I'm able to draw so many correlations to No Man's Sky, it's detract from that. If No Man's Sky didn't exist, I would be blown away by the concept of this game and what is possible here. But the fact that he uses a mining laser on a rock, and I put so much time into No Man's Sky, and then there's space combat, I'm like, okay, I've done that and I've done this, but it's a prettier version of what that product was with, a storytelling element. And that's why I think the storytelling is so important.
I agree. I mean, but as awesome as No Man's Sky has become over the years with Sean Murray and the Hello Games team building it up, a fleshed out role-playing version of that with like a whole thick RPG layer on top wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No.
Yeah.
We should also talk about the character creation because I really liked how that was looking. I actually want to go and see how they scrub through all the options because whenever there's a slider for presents, I'm always like, all right, how much do you actually have here? Is it just like 7 options? Is this like 100 options? So I think that's pretty cool, being able to make your character, but I really loved the personality bits. So it's like your background, like we saw like a whole list of them. It's like, oh, you're a diplomat. Oh, you're... and then like in that you get to choose your traits. It's like, oh, I'm an introvert. And I'm like, what? Introvert in space. Like, of course, but also it's just, I think, really funny to see that.
Yeah, I don't know if we could, there, right there, if we can, I don't know if we can pause on this, but look at this, beast hunter, bouncer, all these professions, bounty hunter, chef, there were so many different things, and I love that feeds into sort of your starting skills. It does seem like,
well, it feels like there's
so much cool stuff in here.
It feels like a repurposing of the special system and the perk system from the Fallout franchise, but obviously with space themes. So like a chef, I'm guessing, is going to make more health potions, right? Or
better
food
crafting.
options, that restores more health. I'm really curious to go through and pause all of these and see what each does. I think it'd be really cool if they let you build these out on the website or something soon. I think that would be sort of a fun thing to do ahead of the gaming.
Kind of like what Saints Row has let people do. Yeah, that'd be super cool.
That would be wise. It does seem like, based on those character creation screens, that there aren't going to be a lot of duplicate characters at all. Like your friends aren't going to have the same character you have. And I'm not even talking about appearance. I'm talking about like skills and traits and the professions and such.
Well, somebody will figure out the optimal strategy, and so there will probably be duplicates of those builds.